Staying with the Supreme Court, President Biden has condemned the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, calling the ruling, quote, outrageous behavior and a mistake. The president also called on Congress to address the long-discussed filibuster in order to restore privacy rights to people who are seeking abortions. He had this to say during the conclusion of the NATO summit in Madrid.
I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be, we provide an exception for this.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett, who is covering the White House, and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Allie Raffa. Good to have both of you with us. Maura, let's start with you. This is a major departure from the president's previous comments on the filibuster. He had previously said changing the rules in Congress sets a dangerous precedent. So what changed? Is the president under pressure to try and get this done, perhaps ahead of the midterms?
Absolutely, Joe. And you heard in the press conference yesterday, closing out NATO, Joe Biden very specific to refer to abortion rights around privacy rights, trying to call everyone under his umbrella there, essentially. And when it comes to the filibuster, we did see him be more open to it when it came to voting access before. And so it has changed. He has changed his position on this. But we have seen a lot of pressure from voters since the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned. I spent a lot of time outside of the Supreme Court in the days after that. And people were really adamant that while they are ready to vote come November to put more Democrats in Congress, that they also want to see action now, because one of the resounding chants that we heard outside of the Supreme Court was the idea of what comes next. And President Biden bringing that up in the sense of the fact that the Supreme Court could be reviewing rights to same-sex marriage or access to contraception. And so voters are looking to see action taken before anything like that could happen going forward.
So, Allie, the president's desires could be a moot point because there are two Democrats who've been staunchly against overturning the filibuster. That's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Do we know if their position on this has changed at all since the president made these remarks? And remind us, what does the Democrats need to do here to get rid of the filibuster?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Well, we didn't hear from these two publicly yesterday, but their offices did tell us that their opinions on this have not changed despite Biden's comments. And the reality check here is that really the votes just don't exist to not only codify Roe into law, but to vote on this themselves. We saw this vote fail back in May. And the gut check here is that because this vote failed back in May, because of Joe Manchin voting with Republicans, the only thing that can be done to really change that vote, the optics of that vote, is to really bring this to the ballot box. And that's what we heard from so many Democratic leaders so far, is that this is going to become such a big midterm issue. And really the reason that Senators Manchin and Sinema are saying that they're not changing their minds on this is that they're saying that this vote, if they do vote to change the filibuster rules, it could really backfire on them if and when Republicans earn back the Senate majority in the midterm elections, Joe.
So, Maura, President Biden is set to meet virtually with 7 governors later today to discuss the future of abortion. What's the goal of this meeting?
Well, Joe, as the White House puts it, these are states that acted swiftly to protect abortion rights right after the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned. We're going to see states like Connecticut, Illinois, California, Oregon. And when you look at the map there, you'll see that some of these states are surrounded by those states that immediately had those trigger laws going into effect, or states that are considering abortion bans. And so the White House is trying to support these states that have taken action to protect the right to an abortion in any way they can, because as we can expect, those public health institutions are going to be inundated with patients working to cross state lines. The White House also saying it's working to protect that right as well. It actually updated its patient privacy guidelines yesterday to make sure that certain patient data disclosures aren't able to be transferred over state lines. People aren't, healthcare institutions wouldn't be held accountable state by state to reveal, for example, if someone had an abortion across state lines, if they needed to travel from a state where it was illegal. And so the White House has been very adamant that because it is now a state-by-state approach, that they want to support the states as they work towards protecting that right to an abortion.
Allie, let's shift gears slightly here. President Biden has been laying the groundwork for a run for re-election in 2024, 2 years from now. His approval ratings, they're much lower than when he took office, but he is the incumbent. He's the leader of the party. Does it feel like he has the full support of his party and party leaders right now?
Well, that's an interesting question because remember, for a while it was a mystery whether he would run again. We heard, optimism from White House officials, but no official 2024 running plan. And so it almost left an opening for Democrats to wonder what the options were. And now that we're hearing official plans for a 2024 run, Democrats in Congress really have a decision to make. And some are taking the stance of, Biden is more following than leading. And some say that they don't think that's enough to be able to win a 2024 election against a possible Trump 2024 bid. Some are saying that he ran as a moderate who could bring people together in 2020, and he shifted it further to the left. Others maintain it's just a time for a new generation of Democrats to lead. And with Biden he will be nearing 82 years old in November of 2024. So they think it's just time for a new person at the leadership of this country. So really, he's looking for leadership and loyalty on this issue. We heard Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a couple weeks ago be very hesitant, really dodging questions of whether she'd support him. And then you have Senator Bernie Sanders, a former opponent, committing to not running in 2024 if Biden is on the ticket. So really, I think it's still pretty early for Democrats to pledge their support, but already we're seeing the rifts in the Democratic Party, Joe.
Very early, but 2022 may answer a lot of questions about 2024. Maura, Barrett, and Allie, Raffa, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.